evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority. Today is March 3rd at 5:01 p.m. Members, Attorney Borland, could you please take a roll?
Member Mike H. Brock?
Here.
Member Egan? Member Egan?
Here.
Mayor Hyduk?
Yes.
Councillor Hoffman-Sockman?
Here virtually? Yes.
Vice President Cameron?
Here.
And I believe Member Drainus and Member Schreiberger are absent.
Correct. I'd like to call this meeting to order. There are no adds and deletes. Let's see, item number 3, approval of the agenda modifications. We have modification, modify 6.4 was moved to 10.1, reorder the agenda to move local housing trust fund and loan requests in front of the department and committee reports, and reordered 9.1 to address the engineering change order as the first item. I'm looking for approval of the agenda modifications.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none?
Member Mike H. Brock?
Yes.
Member Egan?
Yes.
Mayor Hyduk?
Yes.
Councillor Hoffman-Sockman?
Yes.
Vice President Cameron?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Item number 5, consent agenda.
Approval of minutes.
I'm sorry,
That's
item
right.
number 4, approval of minutes. Approve the minutes of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority meeting of February 3rd, 2026.
Madam Vice Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will support. We need a roll on that?
Yes. Member Mike H. Brock?
Yes.
Member Egan?
Yes.
Mayor Hyduk?
Yes.
Councillor Hoffman-Sockman?
Yes.
Vice President Cameron?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Consent agenda. Affirm the Economic Development Loan Fund account balance as of February 28th, 2026 in the amount of $1,824,591.25. Approve disbursements for the month of February in the amount of $55,951.74. And set the next regular Heda meeting for Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 at 5 p.m. in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chambers. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Support.
Okay.
Member Mike H. Brock?
Yes.
Member Egan?
Yes.
Mayor Hyduk?
Yes.
Councillor Hoffman-Sockman?
Yes.
Vice President Cameron?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the next item, presentations, and I believe that is Betsy.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam President, or Vice President tonight, and members of the board. Just a quick little background on the first 2 presentations before we start. On February 7th, 2024, the Hibbing City Council adopted ordinance number 440, second series, creating Chapter 18 of the Hibbing City Code and formally established the City of Hibbing Local Housing Trust Fund pursuant to Minnesota statutes 462C.16. The purpose of the Housing Trust Fund is to create a permanent and continually renewable source of funding to meet, in part, the housing needs of moderate, low, and very low income households within the City of Hibbing. The ordinance authorizes the fund to provide loans and grants for the creation of new affordable and workforce housing, preservation of existing affordable and workforce housing, creation of new mixed-use housing, new mixed-income housing, and rehabilitation of existing housing stock. The creation of the Local Housing Trust Fund directly advances the city's 2023 strategic plan goals related to quality housing, affordability, and community stability. Chapter 18, establishing this trust fund account, is to be maintained and administered by the Hibbing Economic Development Authority No disbursements may be made without prior approval of the HEDA Board. Following adoption of the ordinance, the HEDA Board formally agreed to administer all funds within the Housing Trust Fund pursuant to Chapter 18 of the Hibbing City Code. Administration through HEDA ensures fiscal oversight, public accountability, board approval of all funding decisions, integration with broader economic development and housing initiatives, annual priority setting, and required reporting to the City Council and to the state. Housing stability and workforce housing availability are directly tied to economic development, making HEDA the appropriate administering authority. The ordinance allows the trust fund to consist of multiple funding sources, including budgeted payments from the HEDA levy, state and federal grants, private contributions, principal and interest from loan payments, tax increment, and other appropriations. The Local Housing Trust Fund was initially seeded with $150,000 from the HEDA levy as local match. HEDA formally committed these funds to leverage the State of Minnesota's Local Housing Trust Fund grant program through Minnesota Housing Finance Authority. Additional actions taken include the transfer of Hibbing's statewide affordable housing aid into the Local Housing Trust Fund, including future allocations and authorization to apply for and accept funds from Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, which the HEDA Board did and was approved. This layered approach ensures the trust fund functions as a sustainable and renewable local housing resource, leveraging outside investment. As outlined in the adopted Local Housing Trust Fund process and policy guidelines, HEDA approved 3 vetted entities eligible to apply for these resources. The first was the Housing and Redevelopment Authority of Hibbing, who applied to and was awarded funding at the February meeting. Second is Arrowhead Economic Opportunity Agency, the organization in the audience who will be here to present tonight. And the third is North St. Louis County Habitat for Humanity. These organizations were written into the policy framework because they have established track records delivering housing programs in Hibbing, operate under compliance oversight, and serve distinct and complementary housing needs within the community. This policy provides for annual review by HEDA to ensure continued alignment with program goals and accountability standards. So the first presentation tonight that we have on the agenda is from Beth Davies for the AEOA Local Housing Trust Fund application for owner-occupied rehab project. Beth, welcome.
Good evening. So this application for funding creates an owner-occupied rehabilitation loan and grant program for residents of Hibbing. It helps to fill in the gaps within the existing funding available and serves those most in need. It will help to preserve our housing stock and stabilize our property tax base. It makes available deferred loans for home energy improvements and sewer lateral repairs. Loans are secured by a mortgage lien. There's no monthly payment, and the loan is forgiven if the borrower continues to own and occupy the home as a principal residence through the 5-year term. Any repayment will revolve back into the loan program for reuse. Grants of up to $1,000 will be available for emergency home repairs. AEOA shall administer all aspects of the loan and grant program from application to remitting payment directly to contractors upon completion of work, in addition to servicing the loans by executing satisfactions and providing payoffs as needed. Upon approval, program information will be posted on AEOA's website and applications will be available with funding provided on a first-come, first-served basis. Any questions?
Beth, at this time, this is a program you're starting, so you really have no applicants at this time. You're just going to create a new program to basically support the programs you just mentioned.
Yes.
But Mayor Hyduk, members of the board, AEOA already administers a similar program in other communities, so has a track record with
Right.
administering and knows that this will be successful here as well.
Yes, so based on conversations with Betsy, we've modeled this after programs available in Lake County as well as St. Louis County, things that aren't available here in our community.
Okay.
So it really fills in the gaps where we do need some help.
Very good.
Excellent. Any other questions for Beth tonight?
No.
Excellent. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
The second applicant for the Local Housing Trust Fund is North St. Louis County Habitat for Humanity, and Nathan Thompson is here to present their project as well.
Hello, and thank you for having me, and thank you for this opportunity for us to receive some funding from the Local Housing Trust Fund. Habitat for Humanity, just a little bit of history. We have built and/or helped 39 families so far in the community of Hibbing to build and buy an affordable house in this community. Looking at my phone, because I just had some of those statistics that I wanted to share. So out of the 39 families that have been helped with housing opportunities, that kind of breaks down as 31 new construction homes within the city of Hibbing, 6 recycles, and 2 rehab properties. So a recycle property is simply, we have the right of first refusal on a house when it needs to be resold. We buy that house back and then serve another family with affordable housing in there. So it just gives you a breakdown of the activity that we've had in the community and the households that have been served. Habitat for Humanity, you guys are pretty familiar with the program. So an applicant applies, we look at their need for housing, which includes low income. So we're serving families that make no more than 60% of the area median income. But they also have a need for housing, the idea that they would have a hard time becoming a homeowner without this opportunity from Habitat for Humanity. We look at their ability to pay, so that they would be successful in repaying a mortgage on the property so that we can recoup those funds to build more homes in the community. I tell people we don't have a credit score that we're looking at, but we look at their credit to deem that they're going to be responsible and be able to make their mortgage payments, that they have a stable income of at least $30,000 a year. And so that's some of the items that we look at on their ability to pay. Lastly, we also have a requirement for sweat equity. So we see if they're willing to be a partner in the process of building their home and working with Habitat. Part of that involves monthly home ownership classes that they attend with us while they're in the program building or renovating their home. After closing, they're no longer coming to our monthly classes, but we're there to provide assistance and advice as needed. We're excited that this year we're looking at adding 2 more homes in the community of Hibbing, which would be our 40th and 41st family served. It definitely is an opportunity that I could honestly say, being able to receive some funding from this effort here would definitely help us be able to do that in the program. And the committee had a couple of questions as you were reviewing our application. Is now, Betsy, when you'd like for us to answer those, or?
Yes, Nathan, I will say too, Board, the budget for the 2 projects was updated in your packet to include the in-kind contributions. They're on the same budget table.
Yeah, and typically, so when I do a budget like this, I generally am looking at cash. Cash is king. So I'm like, this is the cash amount that is going to take me to partner with a family and build a home. But I was glad that you guys were like, well, what's the in-kind things that are available in the house and what can we do? We have in-kind materials. $3,500 there is for siding that is donated from our local Louisiana Pacific plant over in 2 Harbors. Interior finishes, things like doorknobs and appliances. The trades is something that the $6,500 there, $1,500 of that we partner with Schneider Electric that provides breakers and the electric box. But 500 of those, or 5,000 of those dollars is a significant contribution from our partnership with the Minnesota North College's electrical program. So that's the, if we didn't have that, we'd have to pay that extra $5,000 in labor. Our partnership with the students saves us a lot of money there. Architect and engineering legal fees. I don't normally put in volunteer labor. That's not something, I'm just used to recruiting volunteers, not necessarily accounting for how much that is. So I did my best guess here, but I think I'm being conservative in saying that the value of the labor that we receive from all of our volunteers to build that home is at least $75,000. I have worked with and talked to builders in the area, and for square footage of our home, anything under like $300 a square foot would be considered pretty economical there. So a house like we would build for a contractor to build would most likely be somewhere closer to $300,000. But it gives you an idea of $178,000 in cash, $99,000 in in-kind labor, for a total value of $277,000. Our homes right now are appraising for about $200,000. So that is one of the areas on just the value gap that you see, and that's something that I see with my colleagues across the state. You know, in a lot of our communities, the cost of building a home is not keeping up with the appraisals as well. The other question I had here was, would the funds from the Local Housing Trust Fund deduct from the home buyer's mortgage? The answer to that is no. We sell the home for its appraised value, so none of the grants that we receive actually lower the value in that sense for the home buyer to buy it. We do receive a product for some of our lower income families. It's administered through Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota. It's funding that comes from the state, which would be an affordability gap type of mortgage. So we look at the family's ability to pay. We consider 25% of their income should be able to handle a payment for the home. But if they need more money, like if they're going to be burdened beyond the 25%, they do qualify for a second mortgage that comes from the state. And that typically is not forgiven. I think what they're doing right now is a 100-year term. Not that any of us are going to live that long, but the idea would be if at any point the house transferred, those funds would go back to the state to help. So that's just an affordability gap to help homeowners. Question of why is there no CDBG funding in my budget? These particular funds, or these particular homes, though we had some small expenses, thanks to the city of Hibbing who partnered with us to get those homes. I've got a big budget, and we look at expending the grant amount. There were just other projects that took up that money, so we did not actually use CDBG money for that part there. But you did notice that I did put an extra $10,000 in-kind value for the donation of that land. It is a big deal to us. Who's giving the loan to the home buyers and at what rate? So the majority of our loans, we at North St. Louis County Habitat for Humanity become the bank. So we do wear lots of interesting hats. I'm a builder. We are a nonprofit, but we're also a bank. And so we originate those first mortgage loans to the home buyers. They're typically at 0% for about 25 to 30 years would be the term. Every once in a while we have the opportunity to partner with the USDA. They have a mortgage product that's called the 502 program, USDA 502, and they have a subsidized interest rate. So typically over the years we've been able to partner with one of our families out of the 5 or so that we're building has qualified for that, and that's part of our funding stream. The last couple of years, it's been tough at the federal level. We're looking at budget cuts and streamlining things, so we haven't been able to take advantage of that of late. Any other questions?
Nathan, I just want to say, you know, I really appreciate the work you do, and I think you've done like 127 homes in our region, something like that.
Yeah, I think we're at 130, which
yeah.
is, yeah.
And, you know, last week I was at your annual dinner and fundraiser and listening to the homeowner's story.
Yeah.
was outstanding. The person that just went in, I can't remember her name, but she had a heck of a story and how important this new home was to her. So I really salute you and what you do for our region and the way you partner with so many different organizations, like you said, the college, the high school, just in Hibbing alone, besides who you reach out to in other communities. But it's much needed, and if it wasn't, you would still be in business. So it is much needed, and they are nice homes.
Thank you.
They are, 3-bedroom homes and have all the necessities that you need
Yeah.
to call it home.
I greatly appreciate that. As you guys know, I have a little bit of tenure working at Habitat, and someone asked me, like, you're still here? Why are you still working at Habitat? Well, when you listen to the stories of each one of our homeowners, you know why I'm still here, and the fact that we get to partner with great folks like the City of Hibbing and all our other partners makes my job very fun and rewarding.
Excellent. Any other member questions or comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. The third presentation tonight is a Heda loan request from Mr. Corey Dropkin from Granite Homes LLC. He has a project that he is working on in Hibbing. He purchased a sixplex recently. Just a real brief introduction, Corey, about your project, and then the loan request, and members may have questions. Thank you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me and for this opportunity to speak in front of you, and opportunity for support on a project that I am working on, been working on and continuing to do so. A few years ago, I purchased a 6-unit building. It was 4 units at that point in time, 2 unfinished units, 4 that had just been refinished and flipped. And we ended up finishing the last couple. So we had 6-unit buildings, 5 1-bedrooms and 1 2-bedroom unit. We've served a lot of young families, young individuals searching for independence, traveling workers over the course of my ownership. Over the last handful of months, we've experienced some moisture problems that have been occurring, and at first we thought it might be from holes in the roof. That's what insurance thought. Ended up finding and realizing that it was truly because of a lack of ventilation in the attic space for years. Because of this, and through the climate, of course, all the insulation in the attic ended up being completely saturated, and over years, that saturation has now started to show through the ceilings, and so water, including mold, is now starting to spread throughout a couple of the units. One has had a major impact and is now uninhabitable. Tenants moved out, and so we've actually gutted that one and are currently working to remediate the situation. There's another 2 units that are starting to show some of that spread. So we're trying to remediate this and mitigate the situation. While we have been working through this process, we've found that one of the units that had already been renovated, the walls, exterior walls, as well as the ceiling, basically had been furred out and dropped down, and the cavities that were created essentially were not insulated, and those cavities were continuing to have moisture problems as well, so spread of more mold, creating more problems that we're working on mitigating. The front part of the roof line as well needs bracing. We've now gotten that brace work done, remediated that so that the front roof line is now re-supported. But essentially I'm looking for some support from the city so that I can complete the rest of the renovations. I'm looking at about a full renovation of $108,000, that which I can't do by myself. I'm also working with a bank, Franson Bank and Trust, who I have my loan through right now, and we are towards the end of a reappraisal process. I should be figuring that out by the end of this week. It's due by the end of this week. So kind of a partnership of Franson as well as hopefully the city of Hibbing. Along with this, we're going to be re-roofing in the spring. There's only been one zone that the that the heat's been on for the 6 units as well. So we're gonna be spreading out and hiring a plumber to do 4 different zones, 1 for the lower floor, 1 for the main floor, and then 2 for the separate upper units, which experience the most humidity. So trying to regulate the heat, trying to fix the moisture problems, trying to re-secure the roof, a whole lot of sheet rocking, a whole lot of new flooring, and a lot of work that's needed ahead of us. And trying to just make sure we can resolve these issues before they get any worse, and trying to give the green lights as well for our workers up here to go for it. I've been fortunate enough to be working with Brandon Freeman with LBR Property Management, as well as Justin Schofield with Elite Northern Roofing. They've been huge boots on the ground in terms of helping me with navigating this situation, especially during a busy part of my life. So thank you very much again for this opportunity to speak in front of you.
Any questions for Corey tonight?
Corey, all your estimates were from contractors?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Excellent. If no other questions, then thank you very much, Corey, and we'll take on our decision items now.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yep, thank you very much. Okay, so the first decision item then is the Local Housing Trust Fund request for AEOA. The request is for $75,000 from the Local Housing Trust Fund. They are an eligible nonprofit under the process and policy guidelines, and they are authorized to administer housing rehabilitation activities that preserve and approve affordable owner-occupied housing within the city of Hibbing. They are requesting the $75,000 as said to preserve existing affordable housing, maintain stability and public health and community revitalization. As a condition of the funding, AEOA shall submit a report to the EDA board following the conclusion of the construction season and prior to the city's required state reporting guidelines. The staff recommendation for disbursement is funds to be dispersed in full upon approval by the Heda board, a signed grant agreement between the city or Heda and AEOA, and the eligible expenditures shall include qualified rehabilitation activities within the city of Hibbing, including sewer lateral repairs. Madam President, I turn that over to you.
Madam Vice Chair, I'll make a motion.
Do we-
Second.
Thank you. But we need to have a roll call.
Yeah. Is there any discussion on this application?
Is there any discussion on this?
I just want to thank AOA. We've partnered with them on many different projects. And to see that we can expand this program into Hibbing, I appreciate you bringing it forward today. Thank you.
Okay.
Member Mike H. Brock?
Yes.
Member Egan?
Yes.
Mayor Hyduk?
Yes.
Councilor Hoffman Sockman?
Yes.
Vice President Cameron?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay.
Item number 2, are you ready?
Item number 2.
Excellent. So this is to consider the application for $60,000 from the Local Housing Trust Fund from North St. Louis County Habitat for Humanity. They have 2 houses that they will be working on this next year. They are an approved and eligible applicant under HEDA's Local Housing Trust Fund process and policy guidelines. Excuse me. They propose, like I said, the construction of 2 new single-family houses. In Hibbing, construction is anticipated to begin June 2026 and conclude June 2027. Each home will be sold to income-qualified households utilizing Habitat's affordability model, including homeowner education, sweat equity, and affordable mortgage financing. The staff recommendation for disbursement is the funds shall be dispersed in full following approval by the HEDA board, a completed grant agreement, and used exclusively for eligible new construction costs associated with the 2 identified homes.
Okay, is there any discussion?
You need a motion.
Need a motion?
Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the funding.
I'll
Support.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay,
Support.
second by Jennifer. And is there any discussion?
No, great program.
Nope. Okay, so,
Member Mike H. Brock?
yes, we need a
Member Egan,
Yes.
Mayor Hayduk,
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman Sockman,
Yes.
and Vice President Cameron.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
So then we go on to loan requests.
Yes,
Number one.
excellent. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The loan request in front of you tonight is for Granite Homes LLC. It is the eligibility within the framework of our revolving loan fund is priority number 1, investment in building renovations and energy efficiency improvements. The project involves roof replacement, ventilation installation, insulation removal and reinstall, mold remediation, heat system zoning, and interior rehabilitation necessary to restore structural integrity and habitability of a 6-unit residential unit property. The project aligns with the Heda revolving loan fund objectives to preserve housing stock, improve energy efficiency, ensure code compliance, and reinvest in the Hibbing community. Granite Homes LLC owns and operates this property, serving workforce housing needs in Hibbing. Total monthly rents at full occupancy generates projected annual gross rent, which will fund these improvements along with the original mortgage for acquisition. The improvements will preserve these 6 housing units currently threatened by moisture intrusion and structural deficiencies. The project retains housing inventory and supports local contractors and protects the local tax base. The total project cost is roughly $108,694. The funding structure includes the Heda revolving loan, Franson Bank with a primary loan, the IRRR Burr grant, and owner equity. Private leverage exceeds 2-to-1 relative to Heda participation, meeting program requirements, and owner equity contribution demonstrates commitment and financial participation. The staff recommendation is approval of the $36,231 Heda revolving loan to Granite Homes for rehabilitation and stabilization of the 6-unit residential property. And let's see, the recommended loan terms are in your packet as well.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant, excuse me, the funding. Or the loan.
Support.
Okay,
Support.
okay. So we got a motion by Egan and support by Hoffman Sockman. Is there any discussion?
My only question,
Uh,
this is Corey's first request to the HEDA.
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
I was just going to say a huge congratulations to him in his personal life.
Yes, Jennifer, I was trying not to mention that tonight, but that's all right. It's been perfect.
I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. I just didn't want to embarrass him, so,
Well, well deserved.
yeah.
okay. And would you take a roll call vote?
Member Mikey Sprague,
Yes.
Member Egan,
Yes.
Mayor Hayduk,
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman Sockman,
Yes.
and Vice President Cameron.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. So item number 9, we have department and committee votes.
Excellent, thank you. The first item I have tonight is a request to approve the 400 block demolition change order and establish a contingency budget for this project. So in your packet tonight is a change order that addresses that additional asbestos was found in pipes on the first floor in building 402, and 2 additional layers of floor tile were found under the first layer of floor tile, which contained asbestos. The requested change order to remove the pipe insulation and additional floor tile is necessary in order to take down the buildings on the 400 block. The total change order number 2 is for $16,240. It will add 14 days to the overall timeline for the 400 block, which changes that timeline from 180 days to 194 days. You will also notice that the contract completion from change order number 1 extended the project by an additional 60 days. That 60 days was for the 507 East Howard, or the former Able Chiropractic only, not for the 400 block, which is still on the 194-day timeline. This change order was addressed to by Door and Associates, our demo contractor, to LHB, our demolition project management team, and city engineer Jesse Story have both signed off on this. And then the request is to put together a 5% contingency budget for this project overall, which is a total of $35,000. Attorney Borland, do those need to be two separate motions, or can they be taken at once?
They could be taken at once.
Excellent. So the request then tonight, Madam Vice Chair, is a 5% contingency at $35,000 and approval of change order number 2.
Okay, do we have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, and a second?
I'll support.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Betsy, who's our abatement contractor? I mean, original that did the abatement on the review.
Who did the report?
Yes.
NTS did the initial
Okay.
report.
Did the NTS say why they missed by so much?
I haven't talked to them directly at this point. The review of their report by both LHB, Jesse, and our asbestos contractor is that there is a caveat in there that anything is buried in the walls or underneath ceiling or flooring, that they don't go and necessarily take those items up to investigate underneath. And these items were all hiding in the walls or under the flooring.
Okay.
So at this time, our abatement contractor, which is Abate Tech, Matt Cuff, is just going to go and review the rest of the buildings to see if there's anything else going on that we need to be aware of, which is also why I'm asking for the contingency budget to be higher than the actual change order at this time. Otherwise, they have to wait 6 weeks, and I do not want that delay in the project timeline.
You know, and I guess our specs have to be written better, because I know when I did the project in City Hall, when we did the flooring, we checked underneath the different levels of flooring, so we knew what we had. I guess I find that as a terrible miss on their part, knowing the age of these buildings and how many times people actually overlay old flooring. So, you know, I think our specs need to just tighten up on that part of it. I'd rather pay a little more upfront so we know what we're getting than have to do this at a further date. I support it, but I just think that's a miss on their part. And I'm glad that Abate Tech was able to find these issues and address them, so.
Duly noted. Thank you, Mayor.
I'd like to follow up with Mayor Hyduk on his, I just can't believe that they couldn't find that the piping, yes, it's in the walls, but most of it's probably exposed. Under the floor, I can understand if they missed that, but piping insulation is something that I don't think should have been missed.
Thank you, Member Egan.
Okay, all right, can we take a vote?
Member Mikey Brock?
Yes.
Member Egan?
Yes,
Mayor Hyduk?
Yes.
Councilor Hoffman Sockman?
Yes.
And Vice President Kemmer?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
May I make a comment? Betsy, can you make sure that they understand how we feel about this?
Absolutely.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Member Hoffman Sockman and also members of the board, this will come from the EDA's, what do you call that, Sheena? The, it's not an undesignated fund, it's our balance sheet.
You're talking about the special revenue fund?
For the EDA, the levy goes into this pot
Yeah.
when it's not spent.
It's just the fund balance in the EDA fund, yeah.
Correct. And so we do have enough for this. I believe from my checks on our internal or our interfund loan, our IFL resolution is still accommodating this additional cost from the EDA as well. So it could be recouped by the TIF as we move forward on this. So I do want to note that, but also will pass along the comments from this body to our
Do we,
consultants.
one other question, Betsy, do we have a contingency on a demolition component of this?
The amount that I asked for is on the entire bonded amount.
Okay.
And it's only on the bonded amount for the 400 block, not for St. Louis County's portion.
Right.
That would be on them.
Yep, understandable.
Excellent.
No more
So-
changes.
Go ahead. Oh, I guess one more comment is that before we release these funds, we're using taxpayer dollars here. I think that it's important to communicate our comments before we pay, just so that they understand and maybe they would like to look at that bill.
Sure thing. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number B.
Excellent.
Okay.
Item B is a request, I'm offering resolution 260301, and this is supporting workforce housing project and creation of a tax increment financing district for the 400 block on Howard Street. So in a nutshell, the City of Hibbing and the Hibbing Economic Development Authority intend to create a tax increment financing district for the 400 block to be designated as a redevelopment district defined in Minnesota State Statutes, Section 469.174, Subdivision 10. And as we work through the process with our chosen developer, Rebound, to put together the financials and apply for funding from the IRRR, as the city or the EDA needs to be the intermediary between the IRRR and the Rebound project. We will not have the full TIF district and the TIF runs and all of that associated financing information together in time to fully pass the TIF district prior to a review by the IRRR, but prior to their May meeting. So the IRRR is asking from the EDA and the City Council to ensure that if they start even to review the preliminary financials of this project, that the city and the EDA are willing to create this TIF district. So prior to the actual funding and the IRRR dispersing any funds and the city dispersing any funds and or bank financing, et cetera, you will see the full TIF runs, the cost of that district, what the cost to the taxpayer will be, and all of those items. It's just the IRRR staff wants to ensure that before they start reviewing it and starting to do their due diligence, that they have the city's city's support for this. So that is the request tonight for 260301.
Do we need a motion on this?
I'll make a motion, Madam Vice Chair.
I'll support. Any other discussion on this? Okay, so we need a roll call vote?
Member Mikey Sprack,
Yes.
Member Egan,
Yes.
Mayor Heiduk,
Yes.
Councilor Hoffman-Sockman,
Yes.
Vice President Cameron,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
So, number C? Item C.
Excellent, thank you. This item is a request to approve the revised Heda loan application. This application, we've been using since probably 2020, late 2022. And as we rolled out a deferred loan program in addition to the revolving loan program, we had rolled out 2 separate loan applications. What we recognized then is that meant there was inconsistency across the loan application requesting all of the same items for finance and my office to review and approve those loans as we went forward. So this loan application for Heda then has a small change to page number 1, which is the type of loan requested, either a revolving loan or a deferred loan. So they're both on the same application now, requesting the same information from the individuals.
Okay, that was the only change.
Yes.
A motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Support.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Then we need a roll call vote.
Member Mikey Sprack,
Yes.
Member Egan,
Yes.
Mayor Hyduk,
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman Sockman,
Yes.
Vice President Cameron,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Item D.
Excellent. This is a request to approve the revised Heda Deferred Loan Program guidelines. We rolled out the deferred loan at the end of 2023. We completed, was it 11 projects, Sheena? That report came to the EDA board at the end of 2025, showing the tax base improvements, the renovation improvements, the investment in the downtown district from that program, how many businesses were assisted, those sorts of things. That all came at the end of 2025. There were some things that we recognized throughout that two-year rollout that could be improved upon. I worked on these revisions with Sheena Malner and Attorney Borland to make sure that the new revisions match our current mortgage process and how we work through that. And so we made a number of slight tweaks to this to make the process easier and more definitive. And at this time, then the revised process is in front of you for review and approval tonight, and then hopefully we can re-up the funding in this program after next month's work.
I'll make a motion to approve revised Heda Deferred Loan Program guidelines.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Support.
Okay, Mike?
Support,
Any other
yes.
discussion on this? Okay, can we get a roll call?
Member Mike Brock,
Yes.
Member Egan,
Yes.
Mayor Hyduk,
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman Sockman,
Yes.
Vice President Cameron,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
So,
Thank you.
item number 2, Finance Director Sheena Molnar.
Good evening, Vice President Cameron and members of the board. I did hand out for those that are in attendance this evening on site an updated loan balance schedule. There was one within the packet, but we do have our drafts at the start of every month, so we did have our draft yesterday, so there is a little bit of revisions to this one that's more current. I don't have a lot to report. There hasn't been a lot of new activities, so that's good news, and most everybody's current. I just want to touch on a few things as far as the Iron Range Management property goes. Most of the engineering is completed. He's looking to start demolition and construction at about the same time. He said he's expecting that to start in March. He's just waiting for his building permit review to happen. And then Yoder Building Supplies did have an additional draw, so now the total draws to date are $179,927.21. And then for the Bologna Investments one, I did have an email with him. He's just waiting for the final source of financing because we approved that contingent upon him securing all of his financing sources. You will see in the bottom right, the fund balances. You'll see that our cash balance has increased. That is because of the last meeting, we paid back our interfund loan from the Fund 610 where we did the AMGS building. So that fund balance did increase once we paid back that loan by that $500,000. So now we have the $1,642,280. We do have the remaining commitments for the Iron Range Management properties, the rest of Yoder's loan, and then the Bologna, provided he gets his final financing secured, which would give us an available to lend balance of $1.4 million. We still have in our Fund 420 Heda Storefront Rental Fund about $218,988 available to lend, and then nothing still in the deferred loan program at this time. Does anyone have any questions on this schedule?
Okay. Item number 3, Andy?
Just briefly, the Moxie is set for a scheduling conference on that collection matter for March 9th. And the judge recused herself on the Arrowhead Sarich matter, so that hearing got pushed back to April 30th for a default hearing to obtain a judgment. The judge used to be an attorney that represented the city. She typically recuses herself anytime the city is a party. So that's my report for this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so item number 10, we have some discussion items. Betsy?
Yes,
Number 1.
excellent, Madam Vice Chair. Tonight, our first discussion item is a presentation on the Jefferson redevelopment project from North Shore Development Co. Jason Hale is here. Did you want to connect in at this point, or do you want me to use mine? I've got yours up here. Yep. Huh?
I got him.
But you can drive, so. Yep. Yeah, all right. Do I need the purple one, Ron? No.
Let's try that first.
Yeah?
Yep, you'll need this. Oh, that's yours, I'm sorry, I'm thinking my own laptop.
I know, right? No worries, you're good. Okay, and then I want to go into presentation mode for you.
Get in my room, otherwise
There you go.
Hello. I know I stand between you and dinner, I think, so I'm going to try to be succinct here. Unless you already ate them, good on you. Smart, okay, I see a couple nods. So just some quick housekeeping things. Like I said, I'm going to try to get through the presentation here pretty succinctly. There's a little bit to cover, and I'll give you some background in a second. But if you have any questions, obviously I'm here at your disposal afterward to answer them. So, okay, I'm going to jump right in.
One moment, Jason,
Yes.
just members, remember I asked Jason to come and talk about the Jefferson School Site redevelopment project because we're starting to figure out what to do with it now, and the city has engaged with North Shore Development Corp as our housing technical assistance and to provide some much needed expertise in this area, so.
Exactly what I was just going to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes, what she said. And so just some quick context. Some of you were in the stakeholder group. I recognize a couple faces here that we started with the free technical assistance that Betsy signed the city up for. I do have to say, both from a staff perspective and even Heda, you folks are actually doing things. So I genuinely want to congratulate you because we're working across the 7 counties in Northeast Minnesota, and not a lot of people are doing things. You're just hearing the conversations earlier today with the Housing Trust Fund, with the Jefferson site and 400 block, like there's a lot of moving parts, and I know how complicated these things are. I just, again, want to commend you, and Betsy's been great at leading, trying to push things forward, and I know what a one-person shop feels like, so I just want to congratulate you on your efforts. I'm not going to read, well, I don't know where the presentation went. There it is. I'm not going to read all that. The only thing I'll say is we're here because we have had private developer and public developer hats. And so we looked at the Jefferson site per Betsy and the stakeholder group's request. How would we look at that site if I was going to come in and get a developer to work on that site and build something? What do I think of when I see it? What's the public process and the way you might want to think about approaching development of that site? So that's the spirit of what we're going to talk about here quick. Okay. You know what we're talking about, Jefferson site. I'm sure you wish it would go away. It's the gift that keeps on giving, like many public sites. So as I understand it, and Betsy caught me up to speed here, the daycare was done at the end of the year, and so they've been relocated. So the property is officially vacant, and I understand that it's been approved. The resolution was passed to certified as substandard for redevelopment TIP purposes. Great. Thank you. On behalf of your own city, thank you. Some people forget that, and you can't unwind that. So another quick couple of things, excuse me. Rezone to R3, as I understand, which allows a variety of housing types. Perfect. You folks acquired it last year, and I know right now you're working on demolition. As I understand it, working with Deed, myself, and other funders, it's hard to get demo funds if you don't have a project. So a lot of the funders say, we're with you, but we don't want to just demo it, and then the city sits on a vacant site for the next 10, 20 years. So they want to use those funds because, of course, they want to go back to their constituents and say, look, we funded this, and it turned into X, Y, Z. And then finally, I looked at, so I know Megan Elliott, and New History. I've worked with her for years and have been involved with a number of tax credit projects. All that's to say, anything with tax credits equals lots of fun and process. Unfortunately here, those are two, the historic tax credit and the low-income housing tax credit programs. Those are sort of the big go-to funding sources for a project like this because you just get so much more public funding and from external resources. And unfortunately, as I understand it, looking at the documentation, this does not really qualify for a historic tax credit, and it's too small for a live tech project. So talking with your HRA director, was very happy to see last year that Jackie got the funding from Minnesota Housing for her project. I think it's 51 or 52 units. Those, and it's $26 million. So those things continue to climb, which is remarkable to me. But my point of mentioning that is, for a community like Hibbing, that's a one every, I don't know, 5-10 year kind of project. The state gets over 6-to-1 applications to funding available. So in other words, there's not a lot of opportunity to consistently get those types of things, even if you applied for it. So suffice to say, the big ticket items that you would go to for redeveloping a site like this are not readily available and maybe not a good fit. This is on your city website. I don't need to explain a lot here other than to say.
Can you stand in front of the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm live. Apologies. I'm used to walking in front of the thing. Suffice it to say here that you have a laid out process already. You've identified the sort of general steps. I agree with these. Right now, you're somewhere in between phase 1 and working toward phase 2. The goal, of course, is to get the funding to demo once you have a project in the queue. That's sort of where we are in this process. And our role at North Shore Development Co. is to try to really help set the table so that you, like if a developer's interested, and by the way, I've talked to 3 of them about this site, to understand like, what do you see, what would you think lives here, kind of corroborate, and the boots on the ground, so to speak. So you're working through all of this, and the municipal advising and legal work is sort of the last step once you have a project in the pipeline, at least preliminarily. Okay, the site itself. On the left side, you can see there's the basic, this is the National Wetland Inventory. So this is not a delineation, but it shows what they know is very likely there. And of course, there's, I think it's Bryan Lake.
Brian, yep.
Yeah, so it's probably pretty accurate. The point is, when we first saw the site, there's a bunch of publicly owned property around it to the east and south and southeast. We thought, well, this is an opportunity to look a little bigger at this core area here around the lake, but most of it's wetland. So the reality is you're not going to want to develop most of that anyway. You'll see in a couple slides here that there is an opportunity for some connectivity or public trail, maybe pathway connections that are low impact to that environment, but that do utilize existing resources to the east, etc. So if you see the site itself, which is in the northwest corner of this picture, really it's the dry spot until you get to the wet spot. But it is developable right now, especially when the school's gone. So the other thing to point out from a land use perspective is this site is really at the intersection of like all of the uses. Right next door is multifamily, single family to the north. You have commercial and storage and retail to the west, and then south is light industrial. So multifamily, just like I think it's Gray Sherwood, I think that's right, apartments, that is very often a sort of transitional use between more commercial oriented uses and single family residential. So this is not at all surprising, but it does shape what's going to live there. Because of the surrounding uses, and you can't really escape. Those are already established businesses, etc. Okay. In context, this is an aerial shot of the Gray Sherwood there. I drove through there, looked at the property. People are living there, it's serving its purpose. There's housing, of course. I think the property is a little tired. There are some maybe deferred maintenance items. There's some updating that could happen. Of course, that's costly, as we've learned from the folks previous to me, that it's very expensive to maintain, especially now to upkeep and fix buildings. I've done it a number of times myself. And then above that, you can see the map. This is the single-family neighborhood to the north. Zestimate is not, an assessment or appraisal, to be clear, but it's a ballpark enough to show there's a limitation on what you're going to command from a single-family price point. I think, is it Nathan, right, from Habitat mentioned that houses are appraising at $200,000, and I've seen some of the homes. They are nice homes, and they're new. They're brand new homes. So there is a price ceiling that we are hitting, and this is, I think we're working with 7 range communities right now, and this is not unique to Hibbing. This is the case across the range, East Range, down to Floodwood and Aiken County. It's the same. Building single-family infill, when in neighborhoods that the median price is $170,000, there's a delta there, absolutely. And the only way that it has happened in the last 10 years is a community land trust opportunity, a habitat program, an impact fund from the state. There's got to be some mechanism to write down the costs. Okay, I'm going to go to the next. Thank you. You're good at that. Okay, so access. This is just, again, developer brain thinking, okay, the site right now has a sort of weird setup in that there's this sort of thoroughfare from the multifamily right through this property to the commercial property. So there's sort of a no man's land, if you will. It's not It's not bad, it's just, if I was thinking, hey, if I was to develop this, I would think, is there a way we can reorient like where access is? Because right now, it's not, the road is, I'm presuming, the parking lot on the road just north of the school, the site, there's an easement for it. It's not platted, there's no paper right-of-way, or there's no right-of-way platted. And you can see, of course, there are like multiple different paths. People could be driving from the Glacier-Wood, going through there, cutting all the way across, using it basically as a thoroughfare to get to the highway, which is not ideal. I haven't done a traffic analysis. I'm just saying, thinking like, hey, how would I want to make sure that there's not a bunch of random transient traffic going through this new development that's not accessing the development? That's just, no through traffic, right? That doesn't always do the trick. So these are just things to think about. And this really comes down to a city engineering and planning question. So the road on the east, that's the picture on the right, I think that's 16th. Maybe that's a truck route, maybe it can't take more traffic. My point is, you can see there's various ways to cut through to get to the highway or to get to that 25th Street. So that it's just something to keep in mind of like whatever gets built there, it's worth looking at how many ingresses and egresses there are and how you can kind of control the traffic flow a little better. Okay. Now, with Hibbing specific context, for those of you who were at the stakeholder meeting, this is the sales, median sale price. We went over every sale in the city of Hibbing that was recorded at the county level, which is supposed to be every sale. And we looked at sale prices. And this is what has happened since 2020 through mid-2025, toward fall of 2025. That's when we had presented. The two things to note, one, obviously your price, like much of the region, but even more so here, went up about 60%. That's pretty significant in 5 years. So the other thing to note is you are starting at $100,000. So when you keep that in context, and it's $250 to $300 a square foot to build, there's a significant delta. Even though you've experienced a dramatic price appreciation, still a problem. So right now, the ones I've looked at recently are about that 170 ballpark. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just wandering this way. Thank you. Maybe I just need like a headset, like a boy band. Okay. So the point here, of course, is just that you have price appreciation that continued. They've kind of plateaued, frankly, and we're seeing this across the region. Prices have pretty much stabilized. You're seeing people, it's called recency bias, people listing or thinking, I could probably still get it for like in peak in 2023, so they list it higher. Well, there's no bidding wars right now, not like there was a couple years ago. And so we're seeing things sit longer, and then we're seeing price reductions. So this is still pretty representative of what's going on. Okay, I am called a dream crusher all the time, and I don't like being a dream crusher. But we're committed to telling you what we think is the facts, and you can do what you want with it. So if you look at the snapshot here, the star is the subject property. And then the little icon on the bottom right, the little travel icon, that is a sale that just happened in November. It was $165,000 for 2,600 square feet. You can do the math, I did it for you as well. The point here is, of course, there were some updates that were needed, maybe some aesthetic choices. The house looked like it was structurally fine, and it was on a little chunk of property. What can you build for that equivalent amount? Basically 600 square feet. So, if you're going to try to cost for, like if you're not making any profit, like if you're not using a realtor and you're just selling it cost per build, that's without a garage, it's without utility connection costs, it's without paying for the land. I know it's sort of ad nauseum. The point here is, by itself, traditional single-family infill doesn't work, and that's why we haven't seen it for the last 10 years in this region. The ones that have happened have almost uniformly been habitat, land trust, some sort of subsidized product. We've seen new construction, but that's been lake homes, executive level stuff, and some of those are being resold on the market and they're sitting because they cost a lot to build and the market has softened. So I won't belabor that anymore. Almost done, I promise. Just going to run through 3 scenarios here that come to my brain when I think, what does this site really want to be? What maybe is the highest and best use? So just offering these alternatives. One is the property to the west is closest to that commercial activity and the highway. I just drove by it again. You can see the school from the highway. So it's better to have a higher intensity of use as opposed to, if you have the choice, which you do, to provide that buffer as opposed to putting a bunch of single family right next to, there's some trucking going on right there. There's really no buffer between that and the neighbor to the west, and you can see and hear the highway traffic. If there's an opportunity to put something between the two, I think that makes a lot of sense. And that obviously this is my word art version, so I'm not a landscape architect, but I think it gives you an idea, and that's the intent. You could carve the site into 2 chunks because it's approximately 10 acres. A multifamily project of about 100 units takes about 5 acres, depends on the lay of the site and stormwater, et cetera. But 5 acres is probably enough. Also, obviously, the height matters. If it's 2 stories, that's not gonna work. So you could try to do something on the west side and then see if there's any change or movement in the market, and see if there's an opportunity to dedicate some property or some parcels to a land trust or habitat houses or whatever. I think the most valuable property is probably in the southeast corner there, tucked away furthest from the commercial use and closest to the woods. But that is one option. Again, you just have to see what's really gonna want to live there from a market rate perspective. What's a viable product? Second scenario is very similar, except you just reserve that second and have a little more flexibility there. Say, okay, we actually have done this with 3 projects now. Often developers will like to say, look, let's say, I'm just making this up, but this is emblematic of a conversation I had with a developer about this site. Let's say they said, you know what, I don't know what the total appetite is in Hibbing for a new market rate, multifamily project, because there hasn't been one in, I don't know, a while.
For
right?
11 years at minimum.
Okay. And one that has like on-site amenities like a community room, office space, workout facility, that sort of thing. That's very common with market. Like that's kind of what's demanded now. We don't know nobody knows what the market is for that right now, especially with hip tech and the closures and the idling. So the developer world is thinking, well, I would probably be comfortable doing, let's say, a 75 unit project there, right? It's scale enough where you can manage it, but it's not too big where you're kind of afraid of not being able to fill it. If there is a market for that, it goes well. It'd be wonderful to be able to have a second phase option, because then I just do a mirror image of that, and then you have operational efficiencies. Then you have one co-owner. So that's what this sort of represents. And if that doesn't materialize, that the market's not there, and they have a little trouble leasing it up, but they're not comfortable proceeding, then you reimagine what happens on the east part of the site. The final one is more just sort of generally open. I've drafted a number of RFPs for EDAs, HRAs, cities, as an employee, and now on the other side. I'll tell you, developers don't love RFPs. I don't even think city employees love RFPs, but we understand the need for them. They're a public process. They help, cast a wide net, and they also help with transparency, et cetera. So I'm not saying you need to do one. It's totally up to Heda. EDAs do it all the time where they direct negotiations with folks. The point here is you could cast a wider net and say, look, what we know we want is housing, and we know this site would be appropriate for that. What does the market want to do with some boundaries around it? So you don't just say whatever you want we'll do, but like, what's the objective? We don't want to build 2 single-family houses here. That's not a highest and best use of the site at all. So maybe there's a minimum density or something. But you could at least require them, hey, we want this broken into at least 2 phases. So if it doesn't work well the first time, we're not married to you, XYZ developer. We can shop around with the second piece. And it also allows time for everybody to see how that first tranche goes. The EDA, the city, the developer, like how's this, whether it's townhomes or multifamily apartment, whatever it is, it gives time for that. And then finally, I'd say, one of the things so I'll give you actually a real example that just happened this year and ended a month ago. I was working I think with Oppidan. I think you've had conversations with them. I was representing them to the city of Duluth along with a local developer, and we were working on the Lester Park golf course site, the southern part of that. I helped draft that years ago when I was at the city, and then it was still happening when I came back 3 years later. And my point is we worked on that. And the reason that it died, the dominant reason that the project is not happening, is because the city crafted an RFP that was so restrictive and required certain percent of affordability in every single product type, and they also were prescriptive about how many units in each phase. When you pose a development, this is a little different because that was 37 acres, but when you propose something, and there's a 10-year time horizon for it to be fulfilled, there's no way you can accurately say. And in year 10, we're gonna build 52 senior townhomes. If anybody tells you that, they're lying, because you have no idea what's gonna happen in 10 years. So it's just a case study of when you get too pigeonholed, then it's really difficult to make the development work. So that's just an evangelist statement of saying, if you can, have boundaries, have goals, have some creative flexibility. And if you don't, you get to say no. Okay, preaching over. Okay, recommendations. Status of the right-of-way, that's just something that I would start with. Maybe it's already clear, but understanding if there's an easement for that road, because access is gonna be very important. Before you get somebody engaged, at least start that process. You'll have plenty of time to, if you find somebody that you want to develop that, but it's a good thing to figure out. My understanding is title work has been done. I don't know, I'm sure it would show up on title if there's an easement there. I haven't seen the title work.
I believe it's still a private road right now, so we were just talking about that with engineering, that we will have to do the right-of-way for that particular road. Yep.
Yep, and then dedicate that to the public would be, I would imagine what would be in order. 2, obviously demolish the building. You already passed the resolution for the TIF district, super helpful. Maintain flexibility, I already talked about that. And then finally, developer interest. There are a variety of ways to do that, RFQ, RFP, direct negotiations. But once you start stacking, these kinds of things take a couple years. Especially if IRRR is going to be involved, I can tell you right now they probably would have to be involved. I mean, look at 400 block is case in point. That's just, and thank God you have that resource. We're working in floodwood and they're just outside of IRRR territory, so they don't get to ask for that. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions? And sorry for dancing around the microphone, I'm not used to it.
I'm just gonna say I appreciate you looked at from many different angles. Used local other projects in the region to compare to this, understanding the housing market at this time and what has changed. So, no, I thought it was very informative, and it's an area we need to make the next steps on as we multitask on many different projects.
Yeah, I see that.
That's the important thing, is that you're multitasking and not doing one project and then waiting and doing another. You're moving forward in many different areas. So I enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And you never know, Betsy knows this as well as anyone, you never know what's gonna pop. So development's a numbers game, and if you have, to your point, if all your eggs are in one basket and that basket decides to stall for 2 years, but you don't know where you go where the energy is in development a lot of the time. So just wanna keep the options open for this one. Well, Betsy has my contact, of course. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Right, so Mr. Hale did note that there's a couple kinds of housing that are happening still in the city of Hibbing. One is Habitat for Humanity has been, and we like to refer to Nathan as the largest home developer on the Iron Range. And he's doing a good job, right? 140 some homes all over the Iron Range.
Yeah.
And then one of the other things that is happening is single family dwellings in the executive, or that would you say it's over the $400,000 to $500,000 price
usually,
point?
Yep.
So this particular, if you look at the site and the Glacier neighborhood nearby, that's not what this neighborhood is, and it's probably not what it's gonna lend itself to be. We like it to be an extension of that current neighborhood with similar product types, including the multifamily that Glacier Wood is there. Because if you look at that putting an apartment building, if you look at larger cities, they put those as buffers for that traffic and industrial noise to the single-family neighborhood nearby. And when we went through the rezoning of this particular site, the neighbors did come and talk about the fact that the noise from the neighborhood, that they can hear that traffic and the industrial site nearby. So doing something like this would allow us to start putting that buffer in place. And, along with some screening and trees, et cetera, would change the dynamic there. And so that's one thing that we'll be mindful of as we move through this process. And I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to look at the site a little bit differently with some input from, some housing expertise that talks to developers and finds out what they're willing to invest in at this time.
Yep.
Thank you again.
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions for Jason?
Thank you, Jason.
Excellent. Thanks, Jason.
We have discussion item number 2.
Yes, so this item number 2 is just a brief 400 block redevelopment project update. We already talked about the demolition, the change order, and a contingency budget. In your packet is an update on the timeframe and the schedule provided by our contractor Dorn Associates. So as we noted, we're in the asbestos abatement period that should be ending here roughly the end of March with that change order. Then the fence installation and demo mobilization will start at that last week in March, first week in April. You will note that there's a note on here that the prism windows, Dorn Associates is working with the individual who wanted to secure those windows and finding an appropriate way to try and get some of that secured and removed. Our contractor's been doing a really good job communicating with the individuals that wanted to salvage a couple of those items. So that's on the agenda, or on their schedule. That demolition then starts, I believe it's a week or two back from that March 23rd date, but it will be in that early April. And then the debris loadout starts and continues through the end of May. Then backfill is in there and topsoil. The 507 building is the item that has not been added to this schedule, but Dorn Associates has assured me now that the abatement change order has been approved, the schedule that you will see at your April meeting will have the adjusted schedule, including that change order and the 507 building added. The other note is I've been working with Rebound. Sheena and I met with our municipal advisor, Michaela Hewitt from Baker Tilly, about a week ago. We are working through, they sent us the drafted pro forma, the narrative for the project, and their sources and uses. Sheena, Michaela, and I have looked through that. We have requested some additional input from Rebound. They're doing some value engineering at this point to see if we can get to a project that suits the site and is financially feasible. They're doing a lot of work with Max Gray, who's the chosen construction manager at risk on this project. So what they're working to achieve is called a guaranteed maximum price, or a GMP. So with that kind of a different model around the construction model instead of design, bid, build, the process takes a little bit longer on the front end to ensure that all of the costing is much more solid at this stage. So we're working through that and should have both the architect and developer back here in April presenting to you with the narrative, what the look and feel like is, etc. They will also be presenting to Heritage Preservation and the Planning Commission on March 16th, because in order to really finalize that cost to build, they need to understand exactly what will be permissible through Planning Commission and the Heritage Preservation Commission for the external elements of the building. Because this is a historic downtown, that costs a little bit more if you're gonna do all brick facade. And so they're gonna work through that process with Planning Commission and Heritage Preservation with some look and feel and some aesthetic elements to it, and work that through with them to further refine that costing based on a cost-benefit analysis. So you will see something coming back in front of you in April with all of those details starting to be ironed out. And Madam Vice Chair, that's the end of my discussion updates, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Any other discussion? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Madam Vice Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll support. Okay. Meeting is adjourned then.
Oh,
All in favor?
What?
Member Mike
are all in-
Hitchcock?
Yes.
Member Egan?
Yes.
Mayor Hyduk?
Yes.
Councilor Hoffman Sockman? Left. Vice President Cameron?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, sir.
Good luck to the Blue Jackets.